Say a bully comes over to you and threatens to kick you in the dick if you don't hand over your lunch money. What do? Well, you hand over the cash to avoid the kick, obviously, but that also means you go hungry for the rest of the day. What do you do then when he comes over the next day with the same threat? The tragic reality for many kids is that they go malnourished through their formative years. Sure, their dick's left unkicked, but they end up scrawny and underfed, lacking the strength to ever kick back. Cowardice spares you momentary pain, but it locks you into weakness forever. You avoid the hit, but you're poorer, humiliated, and hungry. And in the end, all those cash contributions don't guarantee the kicks won't come your way anyway, once you've got nothing left to give. If Trump's speeches at the UN and at his rally at Charlie Kirk's memorial and at the Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt revealed anything, it's that cowardice is fueling his rise towards authoritarianism. His greatest accomplices aren't people like his little policy goblin Goebbels Stephen Miller, but those too timid from the left or the right to oppose him. Courage risks confrontation, and confrontation risks escalation or humiliation or... And that sucks. So people would rather swallow the pain of an insult than risk a bully's vengeance. And the new right wing, spearheaded by Donald J. Trump himself, understands that intimately. That's why the guy traipses across the world stage, turning a UN address into what was ostensibly his billionth campaign rally speech that both demeaned the institution he was addressing while dissing all the other nations in attendance to no pushback.
I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
He said this and needlessly torched the US's diplomatic goodwill, and yet delegates from around the world just sat there in silence because the US is too central to oppose and Trump too volatile to provoke. That silence doesn't just avoid escalation, it instructs him that his tantrums work, that his lies will go unchallenged, and that his bullying will get rewarded. That bullying, that governance by threats and cruel spectacle, it works incredibly well. Unpresidentially unprecedented as these tactics are, the chaos over who his next target will be is exactly how he keeps everyone in line. From his very own MAGA party, most of whom secretly despise him, to the party's influencers, to even its voters. If you think freely, you're primaried or cancelled, not in the lame lefty way, but in the righteous right-wing way. The MAGA mega right has traded policy for performance. Ideologically orphaned, it's abandoned principled conservatism for cheap, hollow opportunism veiled in insincere patriotism. Look at their representatives from around the world and you'll see that cognitive dissonance has become the highest form of loyalty to the movement. Small government Republicans cheer on state takeovers of private companies, then condemn socialism in the next breath.
Don't love some of the Intel deal. That feels a little Soviet.
Yeah.
Don't love some of the money-making ventures, for the Trump family.
Don't destroy my Trump coin value right now.
Well, listen, I
literally opened a Trump hotel in Riyadh this week.
Is that true?
Yeah.
But
Did
can
I
I
miss
just
that?
say,
Like no one cares.
I do have a tough time getting too worked up about it, given Hunter Biden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't care. They let their guy grift all the way into the White House, and while he was there, so I'm really having difficulty working up too much of ire about it. But
Homophobic ministers are caught at gay orgies. Anti-vaxxers who hate big pharma inject enough TRT, HGH, and NAD to kill a moderately robust horse. But how dare people take hormones to affirm their gender?
Wow, that's crazy, bro.
The contradictions don't matter. Winning is all that matters. They've turned politics into a perpetual war against whichever phantom menace drives the most fear-induced clicks. Migrants, Muslims, trans-Muslim migrants. The left blames broken systems, the right blames people, and people are easier to fight than ideas. Climate change and economic decay are amorphous forces, but lazy gay foreigners stealing all the jobs with George Soros's funding? Those you can see everywhere.
There are some foreigners that are coming over and taking our jobs, and not even working.
In this paradigm, projection is key. Power is claimed simply by claiming it, and weakness assigned by declaring it. And that really works. A few articles claimed that the left saw physical fitness as a far-right fixation, and now, somehow, it's canon. Believing in progressive taxation disqualifies you from picking up a barbell and engaging in progressive overload. You are weak if you're on the left. And it's sad, but the left did grow brittle and self-conscious over the last decade or so, mistaking mere awareness for action and retreating from conflict for fear of falling short of its own standards. Too square to meme effectively, too cautious to confront its fractures and draw any lines, it purity spiraled in search of moral superiority over itself, drifting into ideological and etymological vagaries, so uncertain about everything it couldn't define anything. So the right's conviction wins at any cost, while fear of losing and its own self-induced anxieties paralyzes the left. There's no longer an ideological battle between two political schools of thought. It's unearned certainty versus hard-learned insecurity, and the unserious but confident guys are winning. Globally, the right is louder, simpler, and growing more authoritarian, while the left decays into terminal unsexiness. It's divorcing itself, it's day drinking and doesn't shave its pits anymore. And that's its truth, guys. Fox News, Sky News Australia, Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, GB News, and RT all push a single narrative in unison. Yet the biggest left-leaning content creators online, Destiny the Gnome, Vosh the Horse Lord, and Hassan the Himbo Slice, can't keep their egos buried long enough to stand together against what they all claim to oppose. Every petty feud becomes a smokescreen that the right exploits to look more unified and decisive in comparison. The left can't even make friends, while the right has at least learned to keep its hatreds buried deep down while smiling for the cameras. The right talked this obvious strategy through and stuck to it. They talked. For the left, some topics were too toxic to touch, so entire conversations about immigration, free speech, and culture were ceded to grifters like Jordan Peterson and Tommy Robinson, men who champion free speech solely because it gives them license to lie their way to the spotlight with impunity. Peterson rocketed to infamy opposing Canada's Bill C-16, claiming it would send people to gulags for refusing to pronoun. In reality, it simply expanded anti-discrimination protections that were already in place, and no speech was tyrannically compelled. Jordan, instead of being thrown into non-binary Alcatraz for his obstinacy against the LGBT, became a millionaire pseudo-lobsterian paternal lecturer for millions of pathless men across the globe. Meanwhile, Tommy Robinson knowingly disseminates disinformation he likely hopes will ignite riots. And because the government keeps ordering him to stop yelling fire in a crowded theater, he has all the evidence he needs to declare that it's the government that hate free speech. Disdain for the left has become an easily digested message, and right-wing media ecosystems are ruthlessly disciplined about its amplification. Naming an enemy and manufacturing scandal is an incredibly effective way to mobilize a movement once you've drowned out their reason and fear. And if you've spent any time watching the alternative right-wing media ecosystem, well,
there's no comparison between Mao and a trans activist, is there?
Why not?
Now, I don't know exactly where that's from, and I'm sure that the argument they're going to make is, no, we're talking about resisting oppression. We're talking about, it's not about just killing a random person. This is Black Lives Matter.
Something civil war. Talk of civil war. We're in a civil war. We are in it. Civil war. Civil war. For a second civil war.
Liberal. Happy fun, la la la. Human smuggling, fentanyl deaths, forced government euthanasia, chopping up children's genitals, la la la.
I mean, even if you lean slightly right, you can't deny that the lingua guerra, the right's language of war, is division masquerading as concern. They call migration invasion, as if people uproot their lives not to work or seek a better life or safety, but purely to harm those who already have that. There's always a boat of dark-skinned, fighting-aged males just off the shore, a caravan of Latino grapists coming in where the border lacks walls, or another left-wing induced crisis fingers to point at while you roll ads and count the votes bought with promises of safety from the maladies you've conjured.
If you want to be safe, stand with President Trump.
Please, Donald Trump, please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump, please. I'm asking you. Please save me.
Every time someone even loosely tied to the left, or just to any minority group really, causes any harm, you can see the media figures on the right almost literally come in anticipation of the ratings.
So I'm coming day and night. I mean, it's terrific, right? So, I'm in heaven.
The left plays its own blame games and name calls for sure, but the right's uniformity in doing so, its scale, speed, and spectacle are on another order entirely. Unhinged, relentless, and depressingly effective towards their target audience.
The Democrat Party, Sean, is terrorizing the American people. This is terrorism being waged against the American people. Democrats have turned these cities into hellholes, Sean. We cannot call this simply misguided. We cannot call this simply stupid. It's evil.
It's sad that the host of a show on Fox News can say this and barely has to apologize.
Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something.
Whereas Jimmy Kimmel was taken off air for a passing comment that didn't even denigrate Charlie Kirk, but pointed out the right's eagerness to not be stained by that tragedy. I mean, ask yourself this question honestly. How did perceptions get so skewed to the point where the FCC chairman saying this...
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Oh, we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way.
About censoring a comedian critical of Trump ends up being equated to when the Biden administration asked Twitter to disable links to dick pics of the president's son. Well, because things aren't fair anymore. The kicks come unhesitantly and ruthlessly aimed straight towards the dick. Just watch this clip.
Will you visit London during the state visit?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person.
For context, Sadiq Khan has been the mayor of London since 2016. He was the first Muslim mayor of a major Western capital, and though he is the son of Pakistani immigrants, he's a British citizen, and surprisingly not a jihadist mullah trying to fit every man, woman and child into one oversized burqa. London, under his watch, has maintained its position as the UK's economic powerhouse, generating a quarter of the kingdom's GDP all on its own. The city has got its problems, but it's not on the verge of total collapse, and certainly not because Senor Khan is secretly making all that was once halal haram.
Haram.
Trump targeted him not because London has fallen,
oh my God,
but because the man's a Muslim, which makes him a very appealing target whose smearing plays incredibly well with the global right. So Trump just insulted the mayor of London. Let's see what the Prime Minister of the proud United Kingdom has to say about that.
I think he's done. I think
he's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But
oh, look at poor old two-tier Keir's face. The redness, the falseness of that smile, the tortured look in his eyes. He's a friend of mine. Yeah, that's really going to melt Trump's heart. In the old days of civility, a leader wouldn't publicly trash another's capital city. And if they did, they'd apologize. Trump just doubles down.
No, I think he's done a terrible job.
Yeah, I just insulted your friend. What are you going to do about it? Do you want a tariff on your tea, you English breakfast bitch? It's not just Keir. So many other left-leaning leaders flinch, grin, and laugh politely at open insults and then just move on as if nothing happened. Keir Starmer should have shown real mettle there and confronted Trump with conviction. Instead, he blushed and cucked out. Cowardice becomes currency Trump and people like Trump print and spend at will. It leads to cuckflation in real time, where each subsequent act of self-deprecation to appease him is worth less and less as time goes on, and he gets used to all the sycophancy. Yet, I do have to admit the shamelessness is incentivized because standing up for yourself will lead to economic consequences. but at some point you've got to bite the bullet. I understand it's easy to gamble with other people's stakes, but I'm not wrong here. The left have been so cowardly and unstrategic with how they've managed the media ecosystem that every time Trump does something outrageous, it gets excused or even applauded. But if anyone on the left does something remotely not nice, they have to apologize, be disavowed, and maybe even lose their job and piss and shit their pants in recompense. His abuse gets reframed as eccentricity, his cruelty as charisma, his lies as jokes. I mean, don't take what the President of the United States says seriously. Why would you do that? The left gets taken behind the woodshed for the actions of fringe actors faintly tied to their schools of thought, yet the figurehead of the MAGA movement is never held accountable for anything he says or even does. That incessant reframing is how he now has the audacity to claim that right-wing violence happens because they want to stop crime, but left-wing violence happens because they want to cause it.
The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious and they're horrible.
This rhetoric is evil and divisive, and when speech like this worms its way into people and takes root, there's only one direction it goes. The left must rise to the potential of political persecution it faces and stop it from ever coming into fruition, not with political violence of its own, of course, but through coordinated political action. Going back to this recent UN summit I brought up earlier, people walked out on Benjamin Netanyahu's address because it was in fashion to disagree with how Israel was prosecuting its war in Gaza. But when Trump declared that the rest of the world was going to hell while the US is the hottest it's ever been, those same people's asses stayed glued to their chairs. That was the moment to risk the diplomatic dick kick. Cowardice isn't neutral. It's not merely the absence of courage. It becomes complicity through inaction. That's just Trump being Trump is a form of surrender, one most likely felt acutely by those on the right who know this version of politics is rotten but are too scared to speak up about it. That's why cowards are Trump's greatest accomplices, and cowardice is contagious. It poisons both politics and culture alike until people stop fighting for what's right, but for what will hurt them less. When no one of consequence stands up to say this is absurd in a way that resonates, the absurd becomes normal, and every unchallenged lie becomes reality by default.
Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
No, George, I said that I don't.
Up next, we'll be right back.
This is more of what we need. A world where being lied to directly, where having your crank yanked with purpose is not treated as a favor, but as the insult that it is. Freedom requires courage, and I truly want a world where people are free to disagree with or preach policies on the left or the right without consequence. Fighting for that freedom is imperative globally, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on. The right now is seemingly too busy cheering on their recent superficial victories, so if the left won't rally around the simple notion that freedom is important, then the supposed free world's slow march towards authoritarianism will only accelerate. Apes together strong. If a bully threatens you and you can't stand up to them alone, find a friend on the left or the right who still values freedom. Join forces, kick that bully in the dick, and tell them to fuck off! Leave a comment if you still value freedom and like and subscribe for more, or I'll kick you in the dick. Take it easy.